So what's really the difference between truly changing the world and, well, just making more of the same stuff? Today, we are diving deep into one of Silicon Valley's most important ideas, how to actually build the future. And listen, this isn't about making small tweaks here and there. This is about creating things that have literally never existed before. You know, we're always taught to look up to the legends, right? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page. And it's so tempting to just try and follow their playbook. But investor Peter Thiel says that's the single biggest mistake you can make. See, the next huge breakthrough is not going to be another social network or another search engine. That's just copying. That's taking the world from one existing thing to N copies. Real innovation, well, that's a whole different game.
And that right there is the billion-dollar question. I mean, if there's no formula to copy, what's the path? It means you have to start thinking about progress in a completely different way. A journey not from one to many, but from 0 to 1.
So what exactly is this journey from 0 to 1? Okay, first, you gotta understand the challenge. The future isn't just what happens tomorrow. It's a world that is fundamentally different from today. And your job as an innovator is to be the person who actually creates that difference. This right here is the absolute core idea. 1 to N is something we all get, like opening a new restaurant based on a concept that already works. You're just scaling a proven idea. But 0 to 1, that's the magic spark of creation. That's like inventing the entire idea of a restaurant in the first place. That is what real innovation is all about. Let me put it this way. Imagine you have a typewriter, and then you build 100 more just like it. That's horizontal progress. It's just more of the same old thing. But if you have that typewriter and you invent the world's first word processor, that is vertical progress. You've just created a whole new category out of thin air. And you can see how this whole thing scales up globally. Just look at this slide. Horizontal progress, that 1 to N move, is basically globalization. You're taking something that works in one place and you're just spreading it everywhere else. But vertical progress, that 0 to 1 leap, that's technology. And it is so important to remember that technology isn't just about computers and code. It's any new and fundamentally better way of doing things. And this brings us to a really stark conclusion. A future that's built only on globalization just isn't sustainable. I mean, think about it. If the entire world just copied the way developed nations live today, the strain on our resources would be absolutely catastrophic. We cannot solve our biggest problems by just spreading old ideas around. The only real path forward is through radical new technologies, finding ways to do more with less. Okay, so if the secret sauce is inventing new technology, where do we even start to find these big breakthrough ideas? It all begins with learning to see the world in a different way. And you do that by asking one simple but incredibly powerful contrarian question. This one question is the key to everything. A bad answer, just picks a side in a familiar debate, like our education system is broken. Everybody knows that. But a great answer reveals a hidden truth that almost nobody is acting on. And that hidden truth, that's the seed of a company that could change the world. This slide maps it out perfectly. These truths, these great ideas, they're not over here in conventions. That's the easy stuff everyone already knows. And they're not way out there in mysteries, the problems that are basically impossible to solve. No, they live right in the middle, as secrets. A secret is a hard but doable challenge that most of the world has just given up on or overlooked. I mean, think about it. Airbnb and Uber were built on secrets that were hiding in plain sight the whole time. So you have to ask, why aren't more people out there hunting for these secrets? Well, it usually comes down to 4 big social trends. First, from day one, we're trained for incrementalism, to just take tiny, safe steps. We're also deeply afraid of risk, of being the only one who's wrong. Then you have complacency. The people at the top are comfortable, they have no reason to rock the boat. And finally, in this giant globalized world, it's so easy to just assume, someone smarter has probably already found everything. These are the mental traps you have to break out of. So let's say you've done it. You've found a secret. What kind of company do you build around it? The answer is really simple, but also pretty radical. You build a monopoly. We're always taught that competition is healthy, that it's good for business. But from inside a company, competition is just a brutal, bloody war fought over tiny profit margins. A monopoly, on the other hand, a company that's so unique it has no real competitors. Think about Google in search. That kind of company has the freedom to actually think. It can afford to focus on its products, on its people, and on its vision for the long term. Your goal should never be to just beat your rivals. It should be to make them completely irrelevant. All right, so you have a secret and your goal is to build a monopoly. Now, for the most important part, who do you build it with? The founding team is absolutely everything. If you get this wrong, nothing else you do is going to matter. Now, I know this sounds a little controversial, but what it really means is that a startup needs a super tight-knit team that is united by a shared mission and a shared way of seeing the world. A startup is less like a big corporation and way more like a cult or a mafia. A small, fanatically dedicated group that is conspiring to change the world together. The early PayPal team is just the perfect example of this. They weren't just a bunch of colleagues. They were a band of nerds who were completely obsessed with one single mission, creating a brand new digital currency that was totally independent from government control. That shared obsession was the glue that held them together and let them survive. And a mission like that demands absolute, total commitment. Part-timers, consultants, even remote workers can create misalignment. A startup is an all-or-nothing kind of deal. You know the saying, you're either on the bus, fully committed to the destination, or you're off the bus. There is no middle ground. And finally, let's talk about the strange, powerful people who actually lead these missions. What is it that makes a founder so different from everyone else? Okay, so for most people, our traits fall along a classic bell curve. Most of us are pretty average at most things, right? With a few people at the extreme ends. Very weak or very strong, very poor or very rich. So it's pretty easy to assume that founders are just the people way out at the far ends of this curve. The super geniuses, the incredibly charismatic leaders. But that's not quite the full picture. The reality is actually much, much weirder. As you can see here, founders tend to follow an inverse distribution. They embody extreme opposite traits at the exact same time. They're often insiders who have an outsider's point of view. They can be cash poor but fantastically wealthy on paper. They get called heroes and villains, sometimes in the same week. This paradox, this is the source of their unique power. But a founder's true power isn't really about their own personal myth. It's about their ability to lift up the entire team. Their singular, obsessive vision inspires everyone around them to do the absolute best work of their lives, turning a tiny group of people into a force that can actually change the world. So, let's bring this all back home. The future doesn't just happen to us. It is built, piece by people who make a deliberate choice. A choice to stop copying what already works and to start creating what's missing. A choice to find those unique, singular paths that lead from 0 to 1. And so this entire discussion really leads to one final question, a question that is specifically for you. What important truth do you see that other people just don't? What valuable company is nobody out there building? The future is still unwritten, and the first, most important step is to dare to think for yourself.